capture data of Kenyans. The first thing we did was to look at enabling legal regime that would allow us to capture this data without having a lot of litigation. And we have a host of these laws, starting from the Civil Registration, Registration of Persons Act, Immigration, we have the Children's Act. We have a lot of them that allow government to capture data depending on the use. And we brought the actors together of these enabling legal regimes so that we look at which one then fits us best. And the one that fits us best is the Registration of Persons Act. And because the key objective of the project that I'm just about to describe is digital data capture, then we had to go to Parliament and do some amendments on the Registration of Persons Act to allow us to do biometric data capture and to capture the data that we want. And that has already taken place. But we also know that in the fullness of time, because we will need to continue with this project to eternity, we will need a standalone law instead of the many laws that we have. So we have gone ahead and drafted a bill that is going to be before Parliament shortly, called the Huduma Number Bill. We will be taking that to Parliament so that then it deals with a lot of issues, including the permission to capture the digital data from Kenyans for biodata information. And this will include the name of the person who will be in front of our enumerators, the gender, and the place of birth details. And it will also ask whether the person in front of the enumerator is living with a disability or not. That's the first category of data that we'll be asking. This data is captured in many areas, for those who have national IDs, or those who have birth certificates, for those who have passports, for the aliens who are living in this country. That data has been provided, and it's nothing new. The second form of information that we'll be asking for is citizenship information. If you are living here in this country, you are either a citizen or non-citizen. So for the citizens, we'll be asking for the ID, the birth certificate, the NHIF number, the driver's license number, NSSF number, and KRA PIN. We are aware that not every Kenyan has all those things, and I think there are mandatory fields that we will have. For example, we don't expect that you are Kenyan and you have none of those. You don't have an ID, you don't have a birth certificate, you don't have anything, and you want us to believe you are Kenyan. So they are in the application that we'll be using for this data capture, we have that enforced. Then if you are non-citizen, we'll be asking you for the nationality and your country of origin, the passport number, and of course the status of your stay here, whether you are on a work permit, whether you are on a student pass, whether you are on asylum, and so on. That's the category of citizenship information. The third category that we'll have in this form is on marital status. Marital status declares the various categories: single, divorced, separated, married, and so on. And if you are married, then we ask for data about the spouses. That will include the name and also the ID number. In this category, we'll also be wanting, because there are those ones who are still not 18. And even if you are 18, you still qualify to fill in this category of parents and guardians. So in this, we'll be asking for your father's name and ID number. And if they are deceased, then we would expect you to say they are deceased, and then we do not expect anything filled around there. We'll ask for the mother's name, and we'll ask for if none of them exist, because we know in this country we have a lot of people who also don't have a mother, father, but they live under a guardian. We'll be asking that. We also know that not in all cases is guardian a person. There are times the guardian is an institution. So we are also providing space so that you can be able to give information about that institution that functions as a guardian. The next category of our questions in this form is your address. And this will call for permanent address, where you call your home address. And these are information that we already have. But because we want to do, I keep repeating, biometric data capture, we want to verify this from a physical person. And then we will eventually do backroom validation, because we have a number of databases spread across government offices that is not coordinated. Then we will ask you for the current physical address where you are living, and we are aware this is dynamic. You could be living here today, you could be living in another place tomorrow, and therefore we'll provide in future a provision for variation of that information. But at the time of data capture, we would want you to declare your current physical address, starting from the county all the way to the village. Then we'll ask you for your contact details, either a postal address, primary phone number, or an email address. These are not mandatory fields to fill, because we have Kenyans, a lot of them, without them. Then the next level of our questions will be on education details. On education details, these are as they have been captured under NIIMS for the ones who are in school, and they range from pre-primary all the way to postgraduate. So we have tick boxes which will allow us to know what is your highest level of education. And this is important for national planning. The next one is the employment status. The employment status asks whether you're employed, you are self-employed, or you are unemployed. And if you are employed or self-employed, in which sector? Is it service, is it industrial, or is it agricultural? And if self-employed, are you an SME, are you a medium, or are you a large enterprise? That's all we'll be wanting to know about your employment status. Then the other one that we'll ask, and this is important for Ministry of Agriculture, is your agricultural activities. So if you are engaged in agriculture, then you will tick yes. If you are not, you tick no, and the question stop. But if it's yes, then we'll be wanting to ask whether you are farming in crops, whether you are farming in livestock, whether you are farming in aquaculture or trees. And if you are a farmer, then it must be on some land. So is this land on a lease? Is it community, is it owned, or is it public? And after you tick whichever, then what is the size? That ranges from below 5 to above 100. You just tick the category. And if you use irrigation, then you will tick that you use irrigation. After that, we ask you for your fingerprints, digital. There will be a kit, biometric kit, where you will go and your fingerprints are captured, 10 of them, and the form is finished. So the next, we have been able to procure the kits that will be used to do this data capture. We have roughly in this country around 8,500 sublocations. And because this data capture is sublocation based, then we have assumed that each sublocation will need roughly 3 of those kits. So we have 31,500 kits in this country already. And we are very busy installing software in them so that we are able to kickstart a piloting program that will be starting on Monday. After the piloting program, which we are targeting to do in 15 counties that will cover 40 sublocations, we will, after that, we will do the mass registration starting from 15th of March. The pilot starts on Monday 18th, runs next Monday. Runs for 5 days, then we come back and check whether the system adjustment that we need in readiness for the full rollout, which will be on 15th of March this year. That mass registration will continue for 45 days, where we will expect every assistant chief, and they have been mobilized across the country, they have been trained, and the teams set up so that in the 45 days they will have mobilized all their citizens in their sublocations to the kits. After that, we'll come back and do validation and data check for about 3 months. Then we go back and do a mass registration too, for any adjustment that may have occurred between that period. After that, we will leave the kits with the assistant chiefs so that they can continue registration of births, deaths of people in their sublocation to eternity.